A parole officer shot and killed at an Oakland parole building. A suspect just taken into custody. We're going to have the latest. Plus, Trump administration officials take a trip to Alcatraz as they look to turn it back into a working prison. A closer look at the hurdles standing in their way as local leaders slam the move.
With stiff competition, this is the stupidest.
And a day of coordinated outrage aimed at the White House.
Shame!
We'll meet people who hit the streets around the Bay Area in the name of good trouble.
This is a moment that's going to require everyone to get on board and fight back.
Plus, we'll take you inside a San Francisco bakery rising in popularity.
There's no word to describe it.
How it's bringing the sourdough craze back to its gold rush roots. And later, a wrong turn on the way to camp leaves a mom and her Cub Scout alone in the wilderness.
We realized we were going to be stuck there for the night.
How a handwritten note helped rescue crews track them down.
This is CBS News Bay Area with Juliette Goodrich.
Good evening. A suspect now in custody in the shooting death of a parole officer in Oakland. Let's get right to Sarah Donchie following the latest developments. Sarah.
Obviously, this is an incredibly disturbing story. Juliette, details are still coming out. We're following all of them. But what we do know at this point is that a state parole agent was shot and killed, and that sparked a manhunt for the suspect in East Oakland. And that lasted for hours. We were following that one closely. The officer was rushed to Highland Hospital, where tragically he later died. So far, we don't have any information on the identity of the parole officer who was killed or the circumstances that led up to the shooting. What happened in the moments before that happened? Obviously, an incredibly important piece of this story. This all happened just before 1 o'clock this afternoon outside of this California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation's building, parole office. This is on Edgewater Drive, just across 880 from the Coliseum. So this is a little bit more of an industrial area. Some homes or some residences nearby. The suspect took off on foot. We saw a lot of local law enforcement, including SWAT teams, responding to Bancroft near 66th Avenue. They were posted out there for hours in what looked to be more or less a standoff from what we could tell. They eventually all just left, seemingly without any results. And then a short time later, we saw another large police presence near 90th and International. That is where an officer on scene confirmed to us that the suspect was taken into custody. We saw an AC Transit bus as well as an ambulance at the scene, but we're still waiting on details about the arrest and, of course, the moments that led up to that arrest. This is still very much a developing story. Our Andrea Nakano is digging into this, so we will continue to bring you updates throughout the evening here on CBS News Bay Area, as well, of course, on KPIX.com and the CBS News app. So, Juliette, of course, we've got to learn about the suspect.
Yeah.
We've got to learn what the relationship was, what the interaction was just before, and then, of course, more about the manhunt. Law enforcement very busy right now, so we're going to give them a few moments, and obviously they are all grieving a really devastating loss.
Oh, absolutely. We'll have more at 7 o'clock and 11 o'clock on your show. Sarah, thank you. All right, today, cities across the Bay Area are joining a national day of action with a common goal: to make good trouble. So here's a look at demonstrations in Hayward and San Jose. Communities are peacefully coming together to challenge some of the Trump administration's policies. Our Kara St. Cyr is live in Walnut Creek, where another rally is underway right now. Kara.
Juliette, these protests in Walnut Creek have been going on for well over an hour. And if you look at some of the signs out here, you can see that they're protesting things like ICE raids. They're protesting what they also call executive overreach by the executive branch. All things they say require a John Lewis style protest, hence the words "make good trouble."
We're standing up for our rights.
Stefania Widger says July 17th is a day for trouble. Good trouble, that is.
I mean, Hayward isn't typically a town that you see a lot of rallies. That's the kind of thing that some people think is trouble, and we say no, it's good trouble.
The day marks the passing of civil rights icon and Congressman John Lewis, who coined the term good trouble in reference to nonviolent action and civil disobedience. Now for Widger, those words still ring true, but this time she says the real trouble is in the White House.
Vote against the people in power. get rid of the idea that power is money. We need to get rid of that. And we have to remember the power is the people.
Widger helped organize this rally in Hayward to protest ICE raids, Trump's big beautiful bill, and what she calls a breach of civil rights. In the crowd, Lorna Vieira and Beth French hope to use Lewis's message to inspire action come midterms.
We have to continue to speak out, to fight, to stand for justice. Speak the truth.
Good Trouble rallies like these were planned in about 1,600 cities nationwide, with several in the Bay Area. At this rally at Cesar Chavez Park in San Jose, protesters spoke out against what they call the Trump administration's executive overreach and threats to civil rights, including birthright citizenship. They called for local officials to step in.
We want, San Jose and the Bay Area and California to be different. We do not want this happening in our area.
Back in Hayward, Widger is inspired by all the rallies.
I'm very proud of that because it takes courage.
And hopes that Good Trouble will continue to spread. Now, this protest is starting to wind down here, but it is a two-parter. After they're done here, they will move to the Immigration Center at 6:30, and they will stay there till 8 o'clock, which is what I'm told. Back to you, Juliet.
All right, they are dedicated. Thank you so much, Kara. And in Oakland, members of the California Nurses Association gathered outside their headquarters to join in today's demonstrations. This happened on Grand Avenue near Lake Merritt. They are pushing back against the Trump administration, especially its immigration policies and Medicaid cuts. We heard from one nurse who talked about the risk she's taking to fight back.
Right now, I'm getting attacks from my job because I'm standing up. But I understand that the fight is bigger than me, so we can't back down.
Organizers say they're impressed 150 people showed up on a weekday afternoon to make their voices heard. The Trump administration is calling on major counties in California, including San Francisco, to provide a list of inmates who are not U.S. citizens. The data requested includes what crimes they were accused or convicted of and scheduled release dates. The DOJ says the goal is to gain information that can aid the removal of undocumented immigrants who have committed crimes. In its request, the DOJ mentions it will do whatever it needs to get the information if it is not given voluntarily. San Francisco Sheriff Paul Miyamoto says his office will not comply, but will honor judicial warrants. In a statement, the sheriff says the federal government already knows the identity and has the fingerprints of every inmate in San Francisco's jails. If the federal government has a legal reason to arrest someone, they can do so by obtaining a criminal warrant or court order. It's been a few months since President Trump announced he wanted to reopen Alcatraz as a federal prison. And today, his Attorney General and the Secretary of the Interior toured the island. Our Lauren Toms is live with what we're hearing about their visit today. Hi, Lauren.
Yeah, hey, Juliet. Well, the White House says that Alcatraz, in theory, would house some of the worst criminals, mirroring its intentions way back when it was operational more than 60 years ago. But remember its location. It is entirely surrounded by water in the middle of the bay. That's a big reason why it closed back in the 60s. It was just too expensive to operate, but that is not stopping the Trump administration from moving forward with their plans to reopen Alcatraz as a functioning prison.
2 months after President Trump suggested restoring Alcatraz as a federal prison, The Rock played host to Attorney General Pam Bondi and Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, who toured the landmark, exploring whether and how to bring prisoners back. Bondi spoke about the potential in an interview with Fox News.
Alcatraz could hold the worst of the worst. It could hold middle-class violent prisoners. It could hold illegal aliens. It could hold anything. This is a terrific facility, needs a lot of work, but no one has been known to escape from Alcatraz and survive.
Alcatraz once housed notorious inmates like Al Capone. It's now part of the National Park Service and a lucrative tourist attraction. The work it would take to get Alcatraz up and running as a federal prison again is largely why it closed in 1963. It costs more than 3 times per prisoner to operate compared to mainland federal prisons. Back then, maintenance costs were more than $5 million a year, equal to $52 million today. But CBS legal analyst Jessica Levinson says while it's unlikely it's it's not impossible.
The federal government would essentially have to transfer this land from the Department of Interior to the Department of Justice. Then you would have to have Congress potentially go along with that, but also appropriate funds for the prison.
Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, who oversees the National Park Service, wouldn't comment when we asked him about his time on the Rock.
Secretary, what's your takeaway from your time at Alcatraz?
But onlookers we spoke with overwhelmingly say it's just unrealistic.
It's just a crazy idea. There's no sense to it whatsoever.
I think it's one of the dumber things I've heard in recent history.
I think it'd be a horrible thing, not only for the country, but for our budget, our debt, and the repayment of it as well.
Levinson says the effort to get it back up and running faces big hurdles. It's already undergoing a $60 million seismic retrofit upgrade.
You would have to have federal officers and federal workers go through and make sure that this can be transitioned from a park, essentially, to a prison.
San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie says the money needed to renovate Alcatraz could be put to better use.
Or if they want to spend billions and billions and billions of dollars, we have many opportunities to provide clean and safe streets to help rebuild the economy here in San Francisco and on the West Coast.
And passersby like Eugenio expressed little faith that Alcatraz will be restored.
It feels wrong, right? So,
Now, this plan is seeing major pushback from California leaders, including Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, who called this plan one of the stupidest she's seen. But that is not stopping this from gaining some momentum on Capitol Hill. Speaker Pelosi's office confirming to us that they are expecting legislation to be introduced in the House that would remove some environmental protections that Alcatraz currently holds, that would pave the way for Alcatraz to be handed over from the National Park Service to the Department of Justice. Juliet?
Yeah, the spotlight on Alcatraz and Bondi's entourage. Okay, thanks so much, Lauren. So, U.S. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum also toured the Presidio today and spoke with park managers at the Presidio Trust. It comes after President Trump signed an executive order in February calling on the Presidio Trust to review its financing and eliminate all non-statutory functions. The trust responded that its operations are primarily self-funding. So this morning, Burgum appeared complimentary of the trust model.
The Presidio has done a great job. This is a model where they're using private sector tools and market tools with no subsidy. I think they're a great example of how we can do a great job of collaborating with tools to help manage federal resources.
The federal government has not taken any action on the Presidio Trust since President Trump's executive order. Still ahead right here at 6, an $8 billion trial against Mark Zuckerberg and other Meta executives ends with a sudden settlement, the privacy scandal that prompted the class action lawsuit. Plus, it is a modern bakery using ancient techniques. We're going to introduce you to a San Francisco bakery baking its sourdough in history.
It's a really simple idea of just utilizing what's already in nature.
All right, this just in. California is suing the Trump administration over the federal funding pulled from the state's high-speed rail project. Yesterday, the U.S. Transportation Secretary announced it's terminating $4 billion in funding. Governor Newsom calling it yet another political stunt to punish California, and said the state is suing to stop Trump from derailing America's only high-speed rail actively under construction. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg has reached a settlement with investors over a nearly decades-old privacy scandal involving Facebook data. So shareholders had sued CEO Mark Zuckerberg and other Meta executives for allegedly allowing the political consulting firm Cambridge Analytica to misuse Facebook users' personal information. Today was supposed to be day 2 of the trial. Details of the settlement have not yet been disclosed. All right, a welcome announcement for small business owners in San Francisco fed up with the city's notorious red tape. Mayor Daniel Lurie signed off on Permit SF. It is a group of ordinances meant to make it easier for small business and property owners to obtain permits. There will be eliminations to specific permits and unnecessary steps in the permit review process. Rich Lee, owner of a small coffee business in the city, says the legislation allows him to focus on what matters, serving great coffee and building community.
It will save every business owner thousands of dollars. And I mean, thousands of dollars is
a lot of coffee, right? and so, you know, that's a lot of business for a lot of people.
The Board of Supervisors voted to pass the legislation unanimously on Tuesday, and it will go into effect on August 16th. So speaking of small business, some artisan bakers are taking advantage of the sourdough craze in San Francisco, which has been known as the birthplace of sourdough since the gold rush. The pandemic sparked a renaissance of the age-old staple, and Itai Hodge shows us why this classic loaf still has plenty of rise left in it.
If you're one of the millions who think bread no longer has a place at the table, you may want to clear a spot, because inside this unassuming bakery in San Francisco, something's happening that might just have you believe in carbs again.
This is not your Wonder Bread. No, this is not your Wonder Bread.
Jamie Sams runs the kitchen at Jane the Bakery. On busy mornings, they can crank out up to 600 loaves. Each one requires about 5 days from start to finish. Proof there's nothing half-baked about taking your time.
It's a really simple idea of just utilizing what's already in nature.
Owner Amanda Michael says they wanted to go back to how bread was made thousands of years ago.
We're using the whole kernel of grains, so the germ, the endosperm, nothing's stripped out of it.
Not only do they mill their grain on site, it's grown on their family farm, taking every loaf from seed to slice. And it seems the bet is paying off big time. Customers like Sharon Garrison say it's the best thing since, well, you know.
There's no word to describe it.
Across the country, sourdough has been on the rise, fueled by a pandemic-era obsession with baking that's still going strong. Karen Bornarth from the Bread Bakers Guild of America says shoppers are pickier now, and while that's pushed bakeries to step up their game, artisanal bread takes work, and that costs more.
The ingredients may not be expensive, but the hands that make them are worth a lot of money. So keeping it accessible for people, keeping it affordable so that the market can grow is the real challenge.
Still, it's hard to argue with the taste, which is why, in the name of journalism, we had to try a few loaves.
Oh, wow.
Okay, maybe more than just a few.
What's the most important ingredient? Love. No, I'm just kidding.
And that passion for sourdough may just prove that the notion people are done with bread is toast.
How good does that look? Of course, it's not just the Bay Area. The global sourdough market was valued at $3.3 billion last year and is projected to reach more than $5.3 billion by 2030. Wow.
But ours is still the best.
Oh, of course.
Yes, exactly. Let's take a look at our temperatures from today. Instead of like yesterday, topping out 10 to 15 degrees below normal, we return to only about 5 to 10 degrees below average. A mix of 70s and 80s inland. But we're not done with this cooler than normal weather pattern. Details coming up in First Alert Weather.
All right, let's get to our weather and talk about unusually cool weather in the East Bay. TMI, but I took a bath last night when I got home.
Just to warm up?
Yes, just to warm up.
So instead of cool weather, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little chilly. It's sourdough weather.
I think it's always sourdough weather.
Yeah, I know, after that story.
Yeah, walk by Boudin Bakery. Doesn't matter the time of year. You want to go in. Let's take a look at the big picture pattern, which isn't going to change a lot. The persistent onshore breeze that has been with us for the past few weeks is still going to be with us for the foreseeable future. We're going to see those onshore winds, about the same strength tomorrow, maybe backing down very slightly as we head into the weekend, which equates to a tiny little warm up for inland parts of the Bay Area. But the big picture pattern just isn't going to change very much for the Bay Area or for most of the western U.S. So let's take a look at those hour-by-hour wind gusts as we head through the day tomorrow and as we head into the weekend. The onshore breeze is still going to be noticeable on Saturday, but it might be just 2 or 3 miles an hour lower. The peak gusts still approaching 30 miles an hour, generally through the Delta and right at the coast. And that onshore breeze, look at the 10-day outlook for San Jose. It's going to keep temperatures below normal through the entire 10-day forecast. And I know usually we focus on the next 7 days, but even beyond that, average high in San Jose is 81. The closest we're going to be is 78 the next couple of days. And look at that dip for next week. Only low 70s for highs in the Santa Clara Valley for most of the last week of July. Just a weird weather pattern that's not showing any signs of letting up until maybe we're around the corner into August. Plenty of that low cloud cover and fog hanging out at the coast, swallowing up Sutro Tower, as is usually the case this time of year. Temperatures only in the 60s and 70s. We did have a few locations that managed to hit 80 degrees today, but they were pretty few and far between. I think a few more spots have a better chance of getting up to around 80 degrees for high temperatures tomorrow. Let's take a look at the local map, and we'll track the fog as we head through tonight. And really, like the past few nights, it's going to be fog at the coast, but generally low cloud cover. The base of the cloud's about 1,000 feet off the ground, spreading into the Central Valley and then backing up pretty quickly. The fog retreating to the coast by lunchtime. You'll not see any clearing at the coast for the foreseeable future, and so your temperatures aren't going to change much for the foreseeable future. Everybody else manages to warm up maybe a little bit more than today, but it's going to be another day of mild temperatures. The warmest spots only climbing up into the upper half of the 80s, like Morgan Hill. A few spots inland in the East Bay managing to climb up into the upper half of the 80s as well. 86 degrees for Antioch, Brentwood, same thing around Livermore, but no 90s on the map. Temperatures around the Bay, a mix of 60s and 70s, low 60s at the coast and the North Bay, mostly in the 70s with that southwesterly wind bringing that cool air into the North Bay valleys. Should manage to make it up into the 80s around Healdsburg by tomorrow afternoon. Good dog walking weather for tomorrow for our adoptable dog. Say hello to Willow, who is adoptable from the East Bay Animal Shelter in Dublin. It is going to be a little warmer in the afternoon. She's got a fluffy coat, so she probably might find that a little bit warmer than the rest of us, but she's all smiles nonetheless. I'll put up a link to her adoption information if you are in the market for an adoptable furry friend right after this weathercast comes to an end. Let's take a look at the 7-day forecast, and we'll start inland, where again, no extreme heat in sight anytime soon. Temperatures consistently in the 80s, even a few days next week where temperatures struggle to hit 80 degrees on an average basis. Those temperatures are going to stay pretty consistent around the Bay as well, mostly hovering in the upper 60s with a few low 70s here and there, a mix of morning fog and low cloud cover giving way to that afternoon sunshine. And has it been the case for the past few weeks? I don't think you're just going to see much sun at all at the coast, so gray skies will put plenty of fog in the forecast tubes for coastal regions of between 60 and 62 degrees. 1 degree Celsius, a variation of those daily high temperatures for at least the next 7 days. Jules?
All right, Paul, thank you. And when we come back, how a young Cub Scout and his mom survived in the Northern California wilderness after taking a wrong turn on the way to camp. Northern California mother and her 9-year-old son were rescued after a wrong turn left them stranded in the Sierra foothills. And it was thanks to some quick thinking and handwritten notes. The pair were on their way to a Cub Scout camp in Calaveras County when their car got stuck on a dirt road. Roseville mom Tammy said they spent the night in their car. Then the next day, they searched for help down different roads. Tammy's son Sterling used a whistle. They even left these handwritten notes on rocks.
We did leave a note on our car saying that we were walking away by foot. I had a sheet in the car, so I tore the sheet up and we took the strips with us, and everywhere we walked, we hung those on the tree so that we would be able to get back to the car.
A volunteer search and rescue team was in the area doing monthly training sessions. They found one of the notes and then another one down the road. And about a mile later, they found Tammy and Sterling in their car. They were lost for more than 24 hours before the search team helped free their car and return them to their family. Good thing they didn't leave breadcrumbs, right? CBS EV News is next on KPIX. Local news continues on our streaming service. See you back here in 30 minutes at 7 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.